to look around you. Most people are just drifting, reacting to life, waiting for something or someone to light a fire under them. But what if I told you the real power isn't out there? It's not in luck, money, or some magical opportunity. It's in your mind, your discipline, your ability to lock in and lead yourself before the world even opens its mouth. That's the difference between winners and everyone else. Every day, the first battle you fight is in your own mind. Before you pick up your phone, before you check the world, before anyone tells you who you are, you've already spoken to yourself. Most people don't even realize it. They let weak thoughts float in, unchecked. I'm tired. I'm not ready. This is hard. And they wonder why life keeps kicking them in the face. Your words are commands. The things you tell yourself every day become the operating system you run on. If your self-talk is full of doubt, hesitation, and fear, don't be surprised when your actions reflect that exact energy. The men who dominate understand this one simple truth. Self-talk shapes identity. You don't become powerful and then start thinking like a winner. You think like a winner, and that mindset transforms you into someone unstoppable. This isn't some cheesy motivational line. This is mental warfare. And every day you either reinforce strength or reinforce weakness with what you say to yourself. The mirror doesn't lie. You stand in front of it and either see a man preparing for war or a man begging for comfort. When you repeat strong affirmations to yourself, you're not just trying to feel good. You're training your brain. You're burning those truths into your nervous system. You're telling your body, your mind, your emotions exactly what they need to do today. I don't quit. I am relentless. I execute no matter what. These aren't just phrases. They become your default settings. So when life gets heavy, when resistance hits, when everyone else is falling apart, you don't hesitate. You don't flinch. You move forward like a machine because that's what you told yourself you are. The problem with average people is they feed their minds weakness and then expect strong results. They say things like, I hope it works, or maybe I'll try tomorrow, or I just don't feel motivated. Do you think elite men rely on motivation? No. They hardwire certainty through daily declarations. They program dominance into their system with repetition. Not when it's convenient, every single day. They get up, look themselves in the mirror, and speak the truth, whether they feel like it or not. And the truth is simple. You become what you repeatedly say. If your self-talk is filled with purpose, power, and discipline, your reality starts shifting. The brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So when you say, I am built for this, your body adapts. When you say, I'm not average, your decisions change. When you say, I make no excuses, your standards rise. Most people talk to themselves like victims, and then they act like victims. It's no surprise. You are your own handler. You are your own programmer. The world isn't shaping you, you're shaping yourself. Every morning, every hour, every decision. What are you telling yourself? Are you reinforcing your power or your weakness? Are you declaring war on mediocrity or inviting it in like a guest? Because that voice in your head is either your greatest asset or your most dangerous enemy. You can't afford to let it speak failure into existence. You have to dominate it. You have to crush the inner critic and replace it with the voice of a king, a warrior, a machine. And once you do that, once that becomes your new normal, everything else begins to fall in line. You execute with clarity, you push through resistance, you hold the line when others break, because your identity has already been forged in fire, long before the first challenge of the day even showed up. Discipline doesn't show up by accident. Nobody wakes up suddenly focused, motivated, and ready to dominate life unless their mind has been forged through consistent mental conditioning. The same way you don't build a strong body without lifting weights daily, you don't build a strong mind without training it every single day. People think discipline is something you're born with or some magic force that appears when the timing is right. That's false. Discipline is earned through repetition, through deliberate, focused, brutal repetition of powerful ideas that cut through laziness, excuses, and weakness. The problem is that most people only talk to themselves when things go wrong. They wait for failure, frustration, or pain to spark some internal dialogue. That's too late. By the time the crisis hits, your mind is already untrained and unprepared. You're relying on emotion instead of principle. But a high-level man understands the necessity of daily mental programming. He doesn't let the world decide how he feels or how he acts. He conditions himself the same way an elite fighter trains for war, daily without compromise. You condition yourself by hammering truth into your brain until it becomes who you are. Every day you wake up, your brain is either being programmed by the external world or by your own standards. Most people get up and immediately start absorbing information. Their first thoughts are shaped by social media, notifications, news, and opinions from people who don't live the life they want. So they're reactive. They're mentally weak before the day even begins. But the man who wins doesn't consume, he commands. He speaks truth to himself before the world can infect his mind with lies. He reminds himself who the fuck he is, what he's here for, and what he refuses to tolerate. This isn't about fake affirmations or cheesy motivational quotes. This is about war. It's about looking your own mind in the face and refusing to accept anything that doesn't align with your mission. You repeat things like, I don't make excuses. I execute no matter what. I lead, I don't follow. I finish what I start. Not because it sounds cool, but because your brain needs repetition. Without repetition, the default setting will always be weakness, and weakness will destroy you the second pressure shows up. Daily mental conditioning gives you control. When you remind yourself of your identity, your purpose, and your standards every single day, you stop getting distracted. You stop being emotionally manipulated by every little inconvenience. You stop acting like life is happening to you, and you start taking command of every single moment. You don't negotiate with laziness, you don't entertain doubt, and you don't fall for mediocrity disguised as balance. You already know what you're here for, and you've repeated that truth so many times that it's burned into your nervous system. This is why most people fail. They don't repeat power, they repeat weakness. They let tiredness, procrastination, and fear loop in their minds day after day until those thoughts become habits, and those habits become their identity. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. It's because their mind is filled with scripts that were never chosen, just absorbed. A strong man doesn't let that happen. He grabs control every single morning. He reminds himself that he's a machine, a savage, a finisher. He doesn't forget his mission. He doesn't wait for motivation. His discipline is rooted in repetition, and his repetition is ruthless. You either train your mind or you let it rot. You either repeat strength or you repeat weakness. But you don't rise by accident. No one drifts into greatness. You choose to rise, and you condition your mind every single day to back that choice with action. That's how discipline is built, not through hype, but through the relentless daily repetition of mental dominance. Your emotions are not random. They are reactions to your thoughts. People don't break down because life is too hard. They break down because they've allowed weak thoughts to dominate their mind for too long. They convince themselves that they're tired, unlucky, overwhelmed, and then their body listens. Their actions follow, their performance drops. It all starts in the mind. If you wake up and start telling yourself that life is unfair, that things aren't going your way, that success is too far, you're programming yourself for failure before the day even begins. That kind of self-talk becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Most people have no emotional control because they have no thought control. Their feelings swing like a pendulum based on what happens around them. If something good happens, they feel good. If something bad happens, they collapse. They are slaves to their environment because their minds are weak. But the man who trains himself to dominate his thoughts becomes immune to chaos. He doesn't wait for his emotions to decide how he acts. He tells himself exactly how to feel, how to think, and how to move every single day. That's not delusion. That's power. You can't expect to feel strong if you keep feeding your mind weakness. Every time you say, I can't do this, or this is too much, you are telling your nervous system to give up. You are sending instructions to your body to lower the intensity, to back off, to quit. And most people obey. That's why they never become anything more than average. They don't even realize how much they're sabotaging themselves with the language they use. But the man who wants to win understands the game. He flips the script. He tells himself, I was built for this. Pressure makes me stronger. Pain is my fuel. That's not just motivation, it's a command. And the body listens. The mind sharpens, the emotion follows. You can reprogram your emotions by dominating your inner dialogue. You can go from anxious to focused, from tired to driven, from defeated to dangerous, simply by changing what you say to yourself. But it takes awareness. It takes discipline. Most people are running on autopilot. Their self-talk is just a recycling of weakness they've picked up from others, family, friends, society, media. They carry around thoughts that were never theirs, but they believe them like gospel, and those beliefs crush them. The man who wants to rise must become ruthless about what he allows in his mind. He must audit every thought, every reaction, and ask, does this move me closer to who I need to become? If the answer is no, he destroys it. He replaces it with something stronger. I am in control. I do not fold. I choose how I respond. These aren't just cute lines. They are armor. They are weapons. They are shields against a weak, emotional world that's constantly trying to pull you back into mediocrity. Most people try to manage their emotions by changing external circumstances. They think if they just get the right job, the right relationship, the right timing, then they'll feel better. That's a trap, because life doesn't cooperate with comfort. It throws fire. It tests you when you're not ready. And if your emotional control is tied to comfort, you're finished. The man who wins is the one who can stay calm in hell, who can stay focused in noise, who can stay committed in pain. And the only way to get there is by mastering the voice inside your own head. You become what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself that pain sharpens you, then it does. If you tell yourself that failure fuels you, then it does. If you tell yourself that nothing can shake your focus, then nothing will. Your emotions are a byproduct of your thoughts, and your thoughts are your responsibility. Not society's, not your parents, not your environments. Yours. Own them, master them, and everything else starts to bend in your favor. If you want to live an elite life, you can't walk around thinking like everyone else. You can't speak like everyone else. You can't feed your mind with soft, vague nonsense and expect sharp, disciplined outcomes. High standards don't sustain themselves. They must be reinforced daily. It's easy to say you want to win. Everyone says that. But the difference between those who say it and those who actually do it comes down to what they feed their mind every single day. You don't hold yourself to excellence by accident. You do it by drilling the truth into your brain until it becomes your default setting. Most people live with no standards, or worse, they have standards until life gets hard, then they lower the bar. They make excuses. They blame the situation. They let their feelings dictate their performance. That's how weak men think. That's how losers operate. A real man who wants to operate at the top doesn't negotiate with pressure. He sets his standards in stone and then reminds himself of them relentlessly. He doesn't wait for life to be perfect. He creates clarity in the storm, because he already knows what he stands for, and he repeats that to himself like a code. Every day is war against distraction, temptation, softness, and mediocrity. If you don't prepare your mind for battle, you're already losing. That's why you need to have daily reminders of who you are and what you're not willing to tolerate. You don't entertain doubt, you don't beg for comfort, you don't look for shortcuts. You grind, you dominate, you execute. And you tell yourself that again and again. Not because you're trying to feel good, but because repetition is how standards stick. Your brain adapts to what it hears the most. If you keep repeating power, your brain will start expecting it. If you don't, the world will plant weakness in your head for free. You can't let external voices drown out your internal command. The world will try to drag you into average every single day. You'll hear things like, take it easy, you've done enough, you deserve a break. Those are the whispers of defeat. That's the voice of a man who gave up on his potential. You need to drown that noise with your own standards. You need to look in the mirror every morning and remind yourself, I do not quit. I do not negotiate with weakness. I lead myself. I finish everything I start. You need to say it like you mean it, because your brain listens to conviction. It's not about ego, it's about precision. You're setting the tone, you're laying the foundation for every decision you'll make that day. You're building the identity of a man who wins, a man who's sharp, dangerous, unshakable. And if you don't do that, if you just roll into the day without intention, the world will program you with passivity. You'll start slipping, you'll start accepting less, and before you know it, you'll look in the mirror and see someone you don't even recognize. That's why high standards require high reminders. Not just once a week, not just when things go wrong, every single day. Before the world can touch you, before the distractions hit, before the weak thoughts show up, you lock in, you speak with power, you remind yourself of the level you operate at. And the beauty of this is, when you do it consistently, your actions start aligning automatically. You start choosing better, you start performing sharper, you stop tolerating anything beneath the identity you've been carving into your mind with fire, and eventually the results show up. Because the world always bends for the man who refuses to lower his standards. You don't become confident by sitting around waiting to feel good about yourself. That's a lie they sell to keep you soft. Confidence isn't something that falls out of the sky when you've achieved enough. It's something you build by choice, by force, through action and daily self-affirmation. You wake up and you declare who you are before the world tells you who to be. You look yourself in the mirror and you decide how you're going to move, regardless of how you feel. That's power. That's real confidence. It's built, not given. And most people will never understand that because they're too busy waiting to be ready. Every time you speak strength into your life, you're not just motivating yourself, you're giving your nervous system a blueprint for dominance. You're creating mental armor that protects you from the weakness and noise of the outside world. You tell yourself, I'm unbreakable. I always find a way. I don't fold under pressure. Those aren't just words. They are reminders. They're mental reps. And the more you say them with conviction, the more they get burned into your identity. Eventually, you don't even have to think about it. You just move like a killer because that's who you've trained yourself to be. The average man relies on results to feel confident. He needs praise, he needs validation, he needs comfort to act strong. But that's not strength, that's dependency. True confidence is doing what needs to be done even when you feel nothing. Even when there's no applause, even when no one is watching. It's showing up because that's who you are, and that identity is forged in the way you speak to yourself when no one's around. It's built in the silence, in the dark, in the grind. You tell yourself who you are so many times that doubt doesn't even get a seat at the table. There will be days when your mind betrays you, when you wake up exhausted, when everything feels off, when nothing seems to work. And in that moment, most people crumble. They say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not good enough. And they retreat. But the man who's prepared, the man who's conditioned himself, doesn't wait for a good day. He creates one. He speaks fire into his own life. I'm built for this. I adapt fast. I dominate regardless. He rewires his state with force, not feelings. He doesn't rely on luck. He relies on mental repetition. Every victory starts in the mind. You win before you win. You conquer before the battle begins, because by the time the pressure hits, the decision's already been made. You've already chosen who you are. You've already reinforced your identity so strongly that fear, failure, and fatigue can't override it. That's why repeating affirmations daily isn't cheesy, it's necessary. You are training your brain to expect greatness. You are programming yourself to rise, and over time, your internal reality starts dictating your external one. Your words become thoughts, your thoughts become actions, your actions become results. There is nothing more dangerous than a man who doesn't need anything to feel powerful. A man who's already convinced of his strength. A man who's already claimed victory in his mind before the world can even challenge him. That man walks different, talks different, operates different. Because he's not looking for confidence, he's made it. He built it in his mind with relentless repetition, with zero compromise. He doesn't hope to win, he expects it. And that expectation came from thousands of daily declarations that sculpted him into a weapon. You don't need the world to believe in you when you've trained yourself to believe in your own dominance every single day. You are either the one shaping your reality or you're the one being shaped by it. There's no in between. The man who walks into every day with a passive mindset, hoping things will go well, is already lost. Life doesn't cater to wishes. It responds to presence. It responds to force. The man who sets his tone before the world can throw chaos his way is the one who stays in control. You think it's about luck, about timing, about some miracle moment showing up to make everything click, but it's not. It's about getting your mind right before anything else even has a chance to touch you. Now that means you don't wake up and scroll your phone. You don't absorb noise first thing in the morning. You don't let the opinions, problems, or energy of others get access to your mindset before you've locked it in. Because the moment you do that, you've already handed over control. You've already let the world sneak in and dictate how you feel, how you think, how you move. That's how average men operate. They wake up with no direction, no clarity, no fire, and then they wonder why their life feels out of control. It's because they never took the wheel. A disciplined man doesn't hope for peace, he creates it. He creates it by locking in early, before the sun rises, before distractions start barking, before the weak parts of himself have a chance to speak. He sits with himself. He reinforces who he is. He doesn't wait to feel inspired, he commands it. He repeats his standards. He affirms his purpose. He reminds himself what he's not going to tolerate, not just from the world, but from himself. And in doing that, he becomes unshakable, because now he's grounded, now he's ready. Now, no matter what comes at him, it bends to his frame, not the other way around. If you don't intentionally set your mindset, your environment will do it for you. And your environment doesn't care about your goals. It's built to distract, to soften, to seduce. It will tell you that you can skip today, that you can deal with it later, that it's not that deep. But that voice doesn't exist in the mind of a man who prepared himself before it could arrive. He already made the decision to show up, to attack, to dominate. He doesn't negotiate with weakness because he already drowned it out with fire before the world even had a chance to speak. You've got to realize that the world responds to energy. If you step out into the day with confusion, you'll attract chaos. But if you step out with certainty, with control, with sharpness, then everything else starts falling into place. Opportunities align. People respect you differently. Even your problems start to feel manageable. Not because they're smaller, but because you've grown. You've prepared your mind to face them instead of letting them knock you down and then scrambling to recover. It's a whole different way of operating, and it's built in the first hour of your day. Most men are at the mercy of the day. They're always reacting, always playing catch up. But the few who understand the game know that you win in the morning. You win by stepping into your own mind and dominating it before the world even opens its mouth. You don't need motivation, you need preparation. You need discipline. You need to treat your mindset like a weapon that has to be sharpened before battle. That's how you stay ahead. That's how you walk into the chaos of life and remain calm, composed, and unshakable. Because you already decided who you are and how you move before the noise even started. When you train your mind to lead before the world even wakes up, you stop living like a victim and start moving like a force. This isn't about feeling good or waiting for the right moment. It's about creating your moment with intention, discipline, and repetition. The reason most people stay stuck is because they let life decide how they think, how they feel, and how they act. But not you. You've already made the choice to set your tone, raise your standards, and speak power into your identity every single day. That's how you take control. That's how you separate from the pack. When you dominate your mindset, you don't just survive life, you bend it in your favor.